Celtics Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
We are here. The new season is underway. Celtics basketball, it exists again. All due respect to the preseason and, the trip to Abu Dhabi and all the build-up and even Olympic basketball. Honestly, what matters most to Celtics fans is what we have going on right now. The regular season, the road to Banner 19. We got to get used to saying that. Another thing that we do need to admittedly still kind of get used to saying is television voice of the Celtics, Drew Carter. He comes in, joins us, good friend of the program. Drew, welcome. Do you tire of hearing that yet? Probably feels pretty good.
It does, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's a little weird, though, for me. I think it always will be because, the guy I'm trying to follow in that title, I feel like he has it forever, just like, Johnny Most before him. So I don't know. It does feel kind of strange, but I'm happy to be in that chair because it's fun and the team's really good. So we're having a good time.
Team's really good. I mean, leads the NBA in wins already, too.
Yeah.
2-0 start, couple of blowout wins. Hopefully, if you bet them, you took the spread. The Celtics are just, running amok across the league. Hot takes everywhere. Everybody hates the Celtics. The Celtics, they're ruining basketball. Obviously, in game one, as we saw, and I did believe this was going to be a competitive game. I really did. I didn't see Tibbs only playing Jaylen Brunson 24 minutes, pulling starters early, waving the white flag. Hell, it's opening night. What are we going to get? Celtics, how about a 43-24 start to the game in the opening quarter on their way to a 132-109 final in a game that, honestly, if you watched it, and obviously the three of us did, it was not nearly that close. Boston in that game, 29 of 61 from three, and that's only because they shot like crap on what they missed, the last 13, 14 attempts. Trying for the record. So they end up shooting 48% from three in the opening game, but it's not even so much that. It's, of course, and it's not even the making 29 and tying an NBA record. It's the attempting 61. So a much more casual effort there in our nation's capital in a 122-102 win, the 20-point victory, where Boston just a more pedestrian 17 of 45 from three, about 38%. But this has prompted just, again, opinions from national people, even local people. Not everyone, and I've been on record for this, not everyone loves this style of basketball and just the three-point energy that exists in today's NBA. But now, and I don't want to necessarily give him the platform here on this show, at least not without having him on to really break it down, but even Nick Wright, while we're talking about Syracuse people, we're all Cuse people, he went on this Adam Kaufman-esque 10-minute monologue earlier about how this is just not even fun, the NBA anymore. It's now his second favorite sport compared to the NFL because it's not entertaining. This is just video game, as if this hasn't been going on for well over a decade and really began with the Warriors and was on the way to what they became and what the Celtics and the rest of the league are ultimately becoming for the 10, 15 years before that. This is not new. This feeds into, in my opinion, guys, just the hatred of Boston. This is Boston bias. If this was another team doing this with more quote unquote likable stars or what have you, it would have a different perception around the NBA. But because it is the Boston Celtics, the most titles in NBA history, Boston Celtics, and just doing so in such a, I mean, we're arrogant as fans and media members sometimes, but honestly, they're fairly modest, all things considered. And the way that they are doing this and beating the tar out of opponents, it's kind of pissing people off. And Ev, I know you're here for it. I'm here for it. What is it like to watch it and to call it, Drew? Because I'm sure a lot of people in your circle are reaching out to talk about this stuff too.
Well, first of all, let me just say on the Nick Wright thing, I don't think Nick Wright was saying the NFL has to change the rules to prevent passing when his boy, Patrick Mahomes, came into the league and started ripping it up, right? And he, to his credit, admitted his bias when it comes to the NFL being his favorite sport now over the NBA, as if anybody cares. And look, I like Nick Wright, and I'm going to say something in a second that you guys might disagree with, but I don't think anybody cares what Nick Wright's favorite sport is. Bill Simmons always does this too, where it's like, I like the NFL more than the NBA now. It's like, all right, cool, man.
Good on you.
Whatever you say, happy for you. But I will say this, in Nick Wright's monologue, as you said, I thought he made some pretty compelling points about how if the NBA wants to maintain its position among sports fans as a whole, they might have to make some changes in terms of guys playing more. I mean, I'm sure you all feel the same way that I do, where I just don't understand what's happening in Philly with
Oh, the
Joel
load
Embiid.
management era is garbage.
I
It's
don't
awful.
know. I don't know where or when or how he got hurt. I don't know what happened with Zion, why he's sick. I don't know what's going on with Kawhi. Like, I thought all that stuff was pretty compelling, and I thought Nick Wright, to his credit, if you're going to complain about something, you should bring a solution to the table. And he did bring a couple to the table in terms of getting guys to shoot fewer threes, right? You could get rid of the corner threes and extend the arc to the sideline, or you could change the scoring and make it worth 4 and then inside the arc worth 3, which of course will never happen. I just don't agree that it's not an exciting or entertaining style of basketball. I think it's fun to watch. I also think it's easy to say it's not fun to watch if you're not actually watching it. You can look at the box score and be like, oh my God, they took 63s. I hate this. But if you actually pay attention, I think it's pretty entertaining. Like, did anyone think the Warriors weren't fun to watch? They might have rooted against them. They might not have liked them, but that team was super fun to watch. Even if you were a Warriors hater and even if you're a Celtics hater, how can you not enjoy the basketball they're playing? They had 33 assists in the first game and a bunch against the Wizards last night. It's not like they're all just standing around taking turns shooting threes. They're playing great offense, and it's up to the defense to stop them. They're trying to maximize their chances to win in the parameters of the game. It's not their fault. So I know that that's part of what he was saying. I just don't think it's as boring as he seems to think it is, because I think it's beautiful basketball. Now, obviously, I'm also biased, but I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, and I was trying to find very quickly my guy David Brandon, who is the guy that he covers the Thunder. And I thought he pointed out something very interesting. Like, the way the Celtics are playing and the way they're generating their shots and shooting these threes, it's not like this is not the Houston Rockets of past years where they're just chucking them up because that's, where threes and layups and free throws, that's it. And this is the big thing that I've been trying to like pound the table on for the past 4 days as we've watched this all unfold. If you're not, to Drew's credit, like, you're clearly not watching the game, because a lot of their shots are within the structure of their offense, right? It's not like, they're just early in the shot clock with 20, 19, 18, whatever, just like jacking up a three just to have fun. No, this is Tatum gets it like on the right side. He gets doubled, so he swings back to the top of the key. One more, and all of a sudden there's an open three for Sam Hauser in the corner. Like, that's beautiful offense. That's just called moving the basketball and making the team pay for double teaming Tatum. That's just wonderful ball. It's spacing, it's cutting, it's all these other things. It's not just sitting there dribble, shoot a three. This is not the old Celtics where a lot of people rightfully got in Boston for being too stagnant and just dribbling the air out of the basketball. No, this is beautiful player and ball movement. And it's just resulting in a lot of threes because the Knicks traded for Karl-Anthony Towns, who can't guard in the perimeter if they run a simple 1-5 pick and roll. Like, they can't scramble to get back into place. Meanwhile, you watched Boston last night against the Wizards. They're double Valanciunas in the paint, make him give it up, and watch the whole defense just pivot around that point, and everybody recovers. Like, I'm sorry that certain teams haven't figured out how to do that yet. Second game into the season, they will have to if they plan on beating the Celtics. If you don't, you're going to get lit up like a Christmas tree. So, like, as we sit here and try and analyze what to do, recognize it's early in the year. There's not everybody can handle this onslaught, but the second, like, we're also devaluing how good the Celtics are versus the rest of their opponents, Drew. And that's what's making me frustrated. It's like, no, this is not the same as everybody else. This is different. If you want to look at something similar, like, look at the way Denver moves the ball, or Golden State used to move the ball when they were humming back in their dynasty, quote unquote. It's way different, and it's devaluing the process that Joe instilled amongst the players and the coach staff, and it's the players executing out there. It's driving me nuts.
I'm with you. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about numbers here. The team that wins the game, it's ultimately the objective of the game, is to score more points, and that is a math equation. So nobody should get mad at the Celtics for maximizing their chances to win. If you want to get mad at anybody, get mad at John Horst for, trading Drew Holiday. Get mad at Greg Popovich and RC Buford for trading Derek White. Get mad at Brian Colangelo for letting the Celtics get Jayson Tatum at third. You can get mad at a variety of people, but not the Celtics, because they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is create the most efficient offense to win basketball games. And it's a little bit more complicated than their offense is just chuck a bunch of threes. This is a game that's 94 feet where defense leads to offense, and so much more goes into it than they can shoot or they want to shoot. They generate turnovers and they push the tempo, even when they're winning by 30. Their defense leads to offense. They had the second best defensive rating in the NBA last year. This all goes hand in hand. They're playing the game at the highest level we've seen probably since those death lineup Warriors. That's not their fault. If you don't like it because you hate the Celtics, that's fine. But it's not that it's a boring brand of basketball. I think it's too easy to say that it's boring just by looking at the box score. But if you actually watch, it's hard not to be entertained.
Well, as you're both saying, the ball movement, as opposed to, again, as Evan referenced, some of those earlier days of in this rebuild, never, like even early days of Brad Stevens as head coach, when the team was more stagnant early in the Tatum Brown era together, and sort of it began the conversation of, do these guys, can they coexist, and are they redundant to one another? You got two guys out there playing similar positions and and that's just obviously how they were used, and we've evolved into this, where we are now with positionless basketball and everything like that, and that's good, that's fine. I like no issues with that, obviously, but the problem back then was the just up and chucking threes before you're even at 20 on the shot clock, that kind of thing, as opposed to obviously what we're seeing now with the fluidity of the ball movement and how beautiful it is. And the other thing that gets, and you alluded to this as well, Drew, in terms of like, who do we get mad at for the people that do want to be pissed about something? The thing that separates this Celtics team, and this is not new, this is true obviously last year, and even as they've headed in this direction, but especially last year and now this year, is that, I don't know, 10 years ago, their best shooter, and like, for people out there in the YouTube comment section, forgive me, I have not looked at rosters over the last 10 years. I'm just throwing a name out at you. But I mean, there was a point in time in not so long ago Celtics history where their best shooter, like pure actual shooter, was like Avery Bradley. And I'm not disrespecting Avery Bradley. It's just that this Celtics team,
Avery Bradley catches a stray because of Nick Wright.
This Celtics team is just littered with elite shooters. And so, yeah, if you can move the ball around seamlessly and get guys open looks, of course you're going to take them. And I will readily admit, I'll old man shake fist at cloud every once in a while when I see them pass on what looks like it could be an easy layup in the paint and kick it right back out for a three-pointer, especially when that tray misses. But by the same token, what they're doing is working, and the roster makeup is incredible. Again, credit to Brad, to Zarin, to Austin, to everybody involved in that front office who we don't always, recite the names of. It's the way they put this together, and now obviously with Mazzulla Ball leading the charge and just what they're able to do out there. Yeah, it's gonna piss a lot of people off, and they're doing it, by the way, without, I don't know where you want to rank them, Kristaps Porzingis, but obviously one of their top 5 most important 5 players, whatever order after 2 that you're gonna list them in. And I don't know about you guys, and it's a small sample, I will readily admit, but watching these first couple of games, this Celtics team looks better than last year, which is an insane thing to say about a team that finished 14 games clear of the rest of the league and had an effortless road to a championship in terms of not who they played, because people like to pick on that, but the way they played and how well they played. And it feels like, if healthy, which is always the giant caveat, there's almost an inevitability of this becoming a run.
Well, let me just say one more thing on our three-pointers ruining basketball. Where's the basketball I loved? And then we'll move on. I think objectively, people are watching the NBA more than ever. And maybe if they're not watching it, on linear TV when it's happening, they're consuming it on social media more than ever. There's a reason players are making more money than they ever have. The TV deal is laughably huge. There's a reason why, when the Celtics do sell, it'll be for 5 or 6 billion. TV money is the main reason. So people are watching, and you might not like the team in green hitting 25 threes a night. That's fine. But the data says most people are enjoying the NBA right now. And the Celtics are doing this the best of anybody. So with that being said, I think the team is clearly better than it was last year. And it's not unprecedented. Like, does it sound crazy to say that a team that was 80-21 and had a net rating of almost plus 12 per 100 actually improved? It does sound kind of crazy. But I don't think it is, because if you look back at the year after they won in 08, they started 27-2 the next season. And then they dealt with some injuries. And of course, KG was the big one, and they still were pretty close to getting back to the finals. So to me, with who you bring back, who you add, and another year of cohesiveness, I think it's pretty clear that this version of the Celtics is even better than last year's. And you're right, Adam. I mean, if people are already pissed at how many threes they're making, just wait till Porzingis comes back and maybe they'll make 30 threes a game. But I think there's no doubt that this iteration of the Celtics is better than last year's. And a big reason why is, to me, Tatum has leveled up. And I don't know if it's just because, he's pissed off with what happened in the Olympics, and maybe he, wants to get back to the finals so he can win a finals MVP, or wants to win a league MVP, whatever it is, or if it's something a little more tangible, with his jumper being a little bit quicker with the release, and he's better at finding his teammates. I think it's an amalgam of all those things. You combine them, and to me, Jayson Tatum has a really good chance to win MVP this year, because I expect the Celtics to again be in the mid to high 60s for wins, be the best team in the league. And if he's averaging 28, 29 points and like 6 or 7 assists and shooting 40% from three, he's going to have a real case. And I don't know, maybe he wants that because maybe he's tired of any discourse. It's like, we won and we're still doing this. The only way to put that to bed is to just check every box. And he is the straw that stirs the drink for what I think is going to be the best team we've seen in a long time in the NBA.
Yeah, to kind of stay on that for a second, again, you being around the team as much as you are, get access to, stuff that we don't get access to. So the question, I think, is more around, like, at what point during, because we get to see like all the videos on social and all this stuff, and, you only get a little bit of it. But, you see the rework jumper during practice, and I'm sitting there like, Kaufman, I don't know about you, but I was like, oh. So at what point is Drew Carr like, oh shit, this might be legit. This new shot that has debuted extremely well. It's 2 games. We're gonna leave that at that. We know it's a small sample size. We've been around basketball a long time. But at what point during the offseason you're like, oh, this might be real. This might be real, guys. This might be real, folks. Look out.
Or
we don't
11 in game 1 to really hammer it home.
Yeah, right. Six threes in the first half of a season opener. That's an NBA record. He hits one 12 seconds into the season, gives him the kiss of death on the first possession of the year. It's like, that's an omen, I think, for the rest of the league. We didn't know about the change in the jumper until training camp started. And I think some Celtics fans were concerned about it because, he's 38% in the regular season last year, down to 28 in the playoffs, doesn't make one in the Olympics. And you're wondering, is something wrong with this guy? It's like a Mikal Bridges situation. And clearly it's not. He's just fine. And it's not just that Tatum is improved as a shooter. It's Tillman. It's Jordan Walsh. I don't think Derek White has missed a shot. Like, Holiday was 60% from the corner last year. They're just dialed in. Like, I think the historical number that interests me, and I'm going to look into this, but to me, there's no doubt the Celtics will set a record for threes made in a season. Last year, they were like 1350, which was second to a Warriors team. I don't think there's any doubt that record is going to fall this year, just based on what we've seen in the first 2 games. I'd like to know, when you're in that like top 3 in the NBA in terms of attempted threes, what's the record for percentage?
Right.
Because everybody they roll out there is probably going to be around 40% or better. And Hauser, Hauser for his career is above 40%. Holiday as a Celtic is plus 40%. We might be looking at a historically efficient three-point shooting team in addition to, of course, what we know, which is pissing everybody off, historically voluminous three-point shooting team. So that's where the rest of the league should be concerned. But here's the thing, guys, like, even if you try to run them off the three-point line, which I think the Wizards made a point to do in the first half last night, they'll still go to the hole. Like, this is not a one-dimensional team by any means. This is not a group like you invoked Houston earlier, Evan. It's not a group that has one guy who can get to the hole and get fouled, and then everybody else is just spaced around him. They have legitimately 4 dudes who can put the ball on the floor at all time, in addition to being able to shoot. So that's where the offensive versatility comes from. They can beat you in a lot of ways, but obviously the three-pointers are the thing that catches your eye right now.
Quick break from today's show to tell you today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the official daily fantasy sponsor of CLNS Media, and with Prize Picks, you can now up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks in Prize Picks, folks. Is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If the player leaves, the first half doesn't return. Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. And with the NFL, obviously, anybody can get hurt at any time. NBA is coming up. Again, as Celtics fans, we're all sitting here holding our breath. Hopefully, the health of the Celtics remains intact throughout the entire season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need a win to receive that $50 bonus. You just have to make a play. That's it. And Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. Make sure you download the Prize Picks app today. Use that code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And folks, again, if you don't win, you still get the money. There aren't many opportunities like that. Again, that's CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game.
Yeah, look, again, this is how they're going to play. I mean, roughly 2/3 of their shots, not quite that, but 60% of their shots in game 1 were from 3. Exactly half their shots, 45 of 90 in game 2, were from 3. This is the style, and Mazzulla has been telling us this. He has been foreshadowing this for a long time, that this was the direction everything was going to head. And I don't even just mean around the NBA. I mean specific to Celtics basketball. It's what they're doing, talking about the, Drew referenced it before, that it's a math equation, that it's data, and they are buying in, which is why Nick brought up the whole change the scoring, and, as opposed to it being a 50% bump from 2 to 3, make it 3s and 4s, and then it's a 33% bump, that type of thing, which again is obviously never going to happen, but for the sake of throwing something out, he did. What interests me early on as well, you talk about Tatum leveling up. Brown is certainly someone that we talked a lot about in the offseason for any number of reasons. He's coming off the multiple MVPs, Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals, gets left off all defensive team. He was, butthurt about that, especially upset with all things Nike basketball and not being on the Olympic team. Very recently, just earlier this week, went on with Stephen A. Smith, and they had the whole conversation airing out the state your sources and all of that. People can go check out that show if they want to. But the opportunity early on, 2 games in, has been there in a different style, pardon me, but because again, stylistically they're different players, Tatum and Brown, but the volume and the involvement has been there just the same for Brown as it has for Tatum. We've seen him take, of roughly 180, 190 shots for the team, Brown's taken almost 40 of them, same as Tatum. These guys, as a matter of fact, have each taken 38 shots. We've seen Tatum go 23 for 38. Brown has gone 17 for 38. He's taken, 3 for 6 from 3 last time out, 5 of 9 the game before that. The shots are falling. He's even hitting free throws. Finally just missed his first. He's off to a 8 of 9 or 9 for 10 start. Points are there. He had a slow start, but a really strong game in the end on his birthday last time out. I think Brown is leveling up just the same, and he's just not getting quite the same headlines for it as Tatum is.
It's really the story of that partnership, right, AK? Like Jaylen being a key piece of this team, and that being more Batman and Batman than just Batman and Robin. But, it's just the nature of how we cover this stuff is you want there to be one superstar who you can talk about and put the spotlight on. But I think JB proved last year in the playoffs that, those two guys, it's not even a 1A and a 1B. It's just a 1 and 1. Like the Celtics have two superstars on their team. And Jaylen, to me, what's impressive about him is he was already, I think, in the best shape possible. And then he unlocked something else. It's like, dude, you were already operating at 100% of your body's capacity. How did you find 105 or 110? I didn't even think that was in the realm of possibility. But somehow working with, the Celtics trainers, I know Drew Moore is a big guy for him, the entire staff, the Australians, like everybody that helps these guys work on their bodies, they have discovered something with Jaylen where it's just got to be some insane combination of physical gift and insane work ethic to get him to a place where he looks bigger this year. He's more chiseled. It hasn't affected his shot at all. That's always something I think you worry about when NBA players get super bulky. Is that going to affect their shot? It hasn't with him. He's faster than he's ever been. He had, I think, 4 steals against the Wizards.
Correct.
He's just active. He's active. One of my favorite moments from the first 2 games was they had him mic'd up for TNT, and he forces an 8-second violation with the Celtics up by like 25 at this point in the third quarter. He forces Brunson into an 8-second violation, and you can hear him say, "I told you I was going to get one." And I just think like the Celtics are so good that maybe they're just giving themselves side quests within this bigger main quest of winning a championship, and even on a more micro level, winning every night. And those side quests are contributing to winning in a big way. Like to me, the stuff that gets the bench and the players and certainly the coach most fired up is not making a 3. It's making a great defensive play or getting an offensive rebound or diving on the floor, stuff like that. I love when Joe Mazzulla like leaps away from the bench to help somebody up who's fallen under the basket or on the baseline. Like they're just so together. And Jaylen is maybe the best example of that with his commitment to, improving his body and improving his game. And then what he does on the defensive end too. He's just a treat to watch. I do, for his sake, I kind of wish he got the day off on his birthday, but he did get a great party on Sunday downtown.
To your point, by the way, about those side quests, and this is something that I don't think it bothers fans in the least. I think fans like it, but it doesn't annoy a lot of media people, national or local, the MVP conversation. And in Tatum's defense, he's never just talking about winning an MVP. He's always prompted. He's always asked about it, and then he answers the question. He answers it thoughtfully. But, the way he spoke about it just the other day, I thought was one, incredibly accurate, but also just a smart way to kind of deflect, as you put it, something of a side quest, because it is important to him. He does, it is one of the only things in his career at this point, now that he's got the championship, that he hasn't accomplished, being an NBA regular season MVP or obviously NBA Finals MVP eventually. And he does want that on the mantle, on the resume, part of his distinction, however you want to label it. And what he said was, look, I mean, it's not most important thing is a title. Winning an MVP is something I want, but it's not going to distract from the larger goal. But, oh, by the way, like these things historically kind of go hand in hand. Like most MVPs, if you look back through time, play for contending teams. Doesn't mean they necessarily do win a championship, but it's the best players on the best teams. And a lot of the time, those teams do win the championship. So the fact that Tatum takes any grief for this at all, it's annoying. It's close-minded, because he is going out there. It's evident. I mean, if you watch him, and yeah, I talked about how many shots he's taking, no more than Brown so far, but he also is think about like 10 assists in game 1, 6 assists in game 2, only 2 total turnovers so far, facilitating,
Right.
mistake free. We had the conversation in the offseason, Ev, about the playoff Jayson Tatum, and I know the shooting was not there compared to now or compared to what it was during the regular season, but the style, the way in which he played, your whole rant about Point Tatum, stylistically, that is the best Jayson Tatum. That is the Jayson Tatum that I want to watch for the rest of his career. And so far through 2 games, we're still seeing it. And that guy absolutely belongs in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was foolish that he wasn't. People were making the point of, no, there's no way he'll win an MVP. His odds surely reflected that. I even made the argument that that's probably the best value that you could have gotten before the season started was Tatum's MVP odds. Were, I think, plus 1,300. I was like, how is this possible? Like, they're going to win a ton of games. Best player, the best team. It's probably going to be all right. This is the best version. I pounded the table for this, like after the 2022 finals. I was like, this is, once Tatum figures out how to do that part, this team's going to be unbelievable. I did not think that this team would also have Drew Holiday on it and Kristaps Porzingis on it. Those are just luxuries at this point, but I did think that this was inside. At some point, he would raise his game to this level. And, if you listen to Simmons this week, he talked about this is the age, normally 26, 27, where if you're of that ilk of the top 5, 4, 3, 2, whatever players in the league, 27 is normally the year where you make I'm totally, absolutely locking in 100% top 5 player in the league. And I will cap that with MVP vote. We went through all of them, Jokic being the most recent one, but Jokic has already won 3. He's amazing. And for me, the turnover stuff is like breaking my brain, for lack of a better word, because it's normally, you handle the ball that much, you're going to turn it over a lot. The Celtics right now are just absolutely killing teams with precision, and it's led by him. But that's to me the best part, is like the fact that he can find a way to harness this without having to turn it over to their team and get guys going the other way. It's the best part. And as we look forward here, that's the only thing we look at the shooting and the assist turnover ratio. That's all I really care about. And at the end of the day, if he's protecting the basketball, shooting a bunch of threes, so he's going to win a lot of games, and he's going to be, again, first team All NBA. He's going to be in the MVP conversation, and we'll have to wait for Tim Bontemps' little straw poll to come out later on, and I think the first third of the year, we'll have our first one and see where the chips are. But who all the names are. It's not like it's going to be him and Shea and Luka and we'll see with Embiid. Maybe, I don't know, probably not. But
we won't.
I mean, I don't know.
We already know, Evan.
I know. Look,
honestly, he won't hit the games played requirement.
As someone who never sweats the Sixers, and I say that all the time on here, I do love watching Embiid. I don't want to make that like it's not. I do enjoy his.
It's just soft
all the time. Kaufman, I want to throw this to you as
real quick. I just want to add, Tatum is 26, turns 27 in March, and all due respect to Simmons, who I'm sure is an avid listener of this program, we've been saying for 3 years, wait till Tatum is 26, 27, 28.
Yeah.
Like
I was saying that all last year, AK. I didn't know if it was hubris because it was my first year around the team, or and I didn't have the requisite scar tissue that Celtics fans had for the past 5 years, or ever since Tatum came into the league. But I was like, when people would ask me, like, why haven't they gotten over the hump already? And can they do it this year? Is this team any different? I'm like, yeah, this is when they're supposed to do it. Like, I'm watching the starting. Dude, I'm watching the starting 5 right now. Anthony Edwards was 22 last year. Of course they ran out of gas. And he and Karl Anthony Towns bristled at the idea that they have to lose more. It's like, well, I mean, you kind of have to build up to it. And our guys built up to it. And you saw what happened last year. They rolled.
As much as we all lament the finals against the Warriors in 22 as a missed opportunity, there is value in that. It's sure as hell a lot more valuable than not getting there.
Yes.
I'd rather get there and lose than not be there at all. Like that for all the people, and this is a whole other thing. Like, like God love him. Like Mike Francesa is one of my favorite people on the planet. The number of times that I've argued with him about, his claim that Joe Montana is the best quarterback in NFL history because he went to 4 Super Bowls and never lost one. So going is and losing is bad. Like it's, I don't know.
Did he only play 4 seasons? Because what happened in the other 15?
Exactly. Like I think there's value in getting to that final stage, which obviously, again, they did, and they fell short. I wouldn't go so far as to say they blew it. Some people do view it that way, but again, missed opportunity, no doubt about it. I mean, that was a very winnable series, and they didn't get over the hump. But some of that was inexperience. They've got all the experience now. No one will ever talk about these Boston Celtics and use the word inexperience ever. People will, and now Tatum and Brown are old enough that people will not ever make reference to, they're young. No, they're exactly now where they need to be and where they should be, and entering in Tatum's case, because, to me, 26 isn't even there. It's 27, 28, 29 in terms of your prime NBA years. Tatum obviously will get there midway through the year, but he is entering his prime. For all that you feel watching Jayson Tatum, he's going to continue to level up. He's going to continue to ascend. Thank God the dude's under contract, and hopefully the new owners, whoever they are, whenever they come in, want to keep footing this bill, because this is a team. And yeah, like, injuries are going to happen, unfortunately, to some of the best players. And we saw it as Celtics fans year after year after year. Like, it was always somebody, whether it was Hayward or Kyrie or Kemba or Smart or Rob or, whoever that I'm not even naming right now, like, there were all these playoff significant players getting hurt, and it would just, Brown, like, it would stifle the run. And they were all healthy last year, and look what happened. And if they can be healthy as a unit come April, May, June, who's going to stop them? And this, Ev, I'm sorry, I know you wanted to throw something back at me, but I was just thinking about this when Drew was talking about Tatum and Brown and the whole Batman and Batman, or however we want to label it. Like, I've got this thing on my wall over here that a lot of people probably have, which is it's like a Celtics history thing, and it's 2 pictures, and it's like the big threes, right? And it's, Bird, McHale, and Parrish at the top, and it's the dudes that were just all hanging out together, healing the heart over at the Garden the other night, of Garnett and Pierce, and yes, Ray Allen, the 3 of them taking pictures, and just, what feud, what hatred. They have mended fences. Sometimes winning does that, and bringing everyone together. You couldn't do that with this group, or even this era. They don't have, like, people tried to kind of force it with Marcus Smart. There was the SI, article that Mannix did, and he wasn't responsible for the cover, but it was Smart in the middle and Tatum and Brown flanking them. Like, this team doesn't have a big 3. It's a big 2, but really it's a big 5. And I don't want to disrespect Al Horford.
Yeah.
But like Horford's at the end. He's a role player at this point. He owns that. Like, he knows who he is at this stage of his career, and we hope he plays forever. But this is a big 5. And that's what all those pictures would look like. And I kind of appreciate in this era of, like, teams wanting these big 3s, and fighting and dealing for these big 3s, not unlike the Thunder, by the way, who are younger and inexperienced as compared to the Celtics, and sort of early on, and where the Celtics were a few years ago. They are also a unit. Like, they've got their clear most important couple of players, but they are a unit like the Celtics. And it's effing fun to watch, man.
It's beautiful. And let me just say one more thing on Tatum. If you think about basketball, a lot of the time teams will take on the personality of their star player, right? And so if Tatum's going to be, 7, 8, 9 assists per game, typically when guys are averaging that many assists, they're either a point guard or they're somebody who pounds the ball a lot, right? Like Harden led the league in assists a couple times, heliocentric, Trae Young, Luka. Not to say this to discredit those guys, but they just are dribbling the ball a lot. You watch the Celtics team play, nobody holds onto the ball for more than like 5 seconds. It is not a sticky offense. Even when Tatum and Brown get to the post, and when Porzingis is playing and he's super efficient in the post, even then, I don't feel like it's a sticky offense. They move the ball so well. And so compare that to when Tatum and Brown were younger, and there were so many questions about, can you build a really hyper efficient offense around these 2 guys? There's a lot of dribbling. There's a lot of redundancy. They play the same position. They both like to do the same thing, get in their bag, whatever. just look at them now and how much they have developed, and they've done it next to each other. And specifically with Tatum, the way that he's been moving the ball early in the season, like, to me, that's the most impressive thing, because he's always been a great scorer. I mean, he averaged 30 a couple years ago. His scoring declined last season, but he was more efficient, and he averaged a career high in assists, and I think it's only going to get better.
All right, we'll take a quick break, get right back to the show, but we got to tell you, today's show, it is powered by Game Time. Game Time is the easiest place to score tickets to whatever event you want to go to. Sure, basketball's coming, football's in full swing, baseball, depends where you live, I guess, but that's just generally behind us. You have hockey, that's going on right now. You want to swoop out to the Garden, watch the Bees, but it's not just sports. There's concerts, there's comedy, theater. Tickets can be found all over the place at Game Time. Even a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, Ev. And Game Time Picks, it filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets.
And they have this new thing, Kaufman, called the Super Deal. I don't know if you've seen this yet, if you've been perusing the Game Time app, but basically what happens is Game Time will show you pick like we always talk about the Celtics in the show. Let's say we wanted to go to opening night, and you pick, you're looking through the ticket options. They'll have something called the Super Deal, which means it's in the top 1% of all tickets available for that event. If it has that super deal, you better pounce immediately, because those tickets will not be there long. They're too good of a deal.
Lowest price guarantee, like Ev said. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code. It is CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that code CLNS. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CLNS. $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I'll make my first point quick. My favorite part about Tatum, and he said it, I don't remember exactly when he said it, but it was after everything was done. They asked him what was the difference. He goes, "We didn't skip any steps this year," and that's the big difference, I think, with me and listening to a guy like Anthony Edwards talk after starting 5. He goes, "Yeah, we're gonna be right back here next year." Blah blah blah. I'm like, he's at some point gonna have to learn like some certain things that you can only learn by losing. And I think Tatum and Brown had that perspective. But I'll hold another take just to ask Drew this, because I feel bad. You guys didn't have the game, obviously, for ring night. But because we brought up KG, Pearson, Allen being back at the Garden as a unit. I thought it was awesome that Ray was brought into this thing to be a part of this, because we've shunned him for a decade plus here. What was it like being in the building? I mean, the juice, all day, all of us are grinning like idiots, because it's just, is it 7 o'clock yet? Is it 7 o'clock yet? 7 o'clock yet? We're sitting there waiting for all things to start. I got home, I threw the TV on. I have like a Paul Pierce cigar infomercial happening. I can't wrap my head around it. You got the TNT guys there. They do the whole ring ceremony. Again, just the biggest smile you could possibly have. The game was amazing. The environment must have been something else. But what was ring night like being there firsthand, Drew?
The whole thing was beautiful. I was the same way, Evan. My face hurt after ring night because I was smiling the whole time. And when I think one of many amazing moments was when Kuzi came out, and he's 96 years old, and Jeff Twiss has him in the wheelchair. Jeff Twiss, for those who don't know, is Celtics communications czar, who just started his 44th season with the team. He got there when Mike Gorman did. Yeah, so Jeff is just, he's a legend, rolling out another legend, obviously, in Kuz, who had said, about a year prior, I just want to see one more, right?
Pulling them out.
I got one foot in the effing grave, and I just want to see one more, right? So that was really neat. Having those guys out there, I'm glad you brought it up, Evan, because I saw Ray, and I was like, first of all, where's Scal? I mean, everyone knows the big four. Everyone talks about that with Paul, KG, and Scal.
No, we got to knock Scal down a couple pegs here. Come on now. We're not doing that.
In fairness to Scal, he choreographed this in 2008 during his post-game presser. He said, like, in X number of years, I'm going to be telling people I'm finals MVP and all that.
Yeah.
So Scal's been building to this moment.
And now he gets to enjoy it. He hosted their podcast at Big Night before the banner ceremony. But the other thing was, like, I thought Ray Allen wasn't cool with the other two because he went to Miami, but I guess like you said, Evan, winning heals all, and they're all good. And it was just a celebration of the Celtics family. And I was thinking of the Red quote where he said, the Celtics aren't a basketball team, they're a way of life. It kind of felt like that in the building. So it was a different emotional feeling, I would say, than when they won on game 5, when, not to sound soft or dramatic, but I got a little emotional when Jaylen won finals MVP, because how much that meant to him and how much he's felt maybe underappreciated in the past and how hard he's worked to reach that point. And then the parade, which was pure elation for 2 straight hours, this was more of like satisfaction and almost like being at Thanksgiving when everyone in your family had a really good year, like personally and professionally. That's kind of what it felt like. So it was a great night. And then, to be honest with you guys, I wasn't worried at all about the team losing focus. One split second when Tatum took the mic and, he was all smiles and talking, and then he said, "Let's do it again." And I'm like, oh yeah, I got no concern about this team being distracted or losing focus because of the guys on the team, because of the coach really is the number one reason, and what they built. And then all of a sudden they're up by 30 and here we go. Let's do it again.
Yeah. And to come out the way they did right away too. Like I was because I don't know. I think my wife loves me, but sometimes I question it, because she said to me at like 6:00 on that day, on banner night, if you will, and she's like, "Hey, you want to meet some friends out for dinner?" No, like what? Of course not. She's like, "Come on, let's go. Like, you can get home in time for the game. We're just gonna go down the street, but how so I did." But I mean, we went to a bar.
What?
And I know. So I watched the ring ceremony and everything like on mute. I recorded it.
You should have kept this to yourself, brother.
Yeah, I recorded so that I could.
You didn't do Liz like this, man. That's not fair.
I mean, I recorded it. I had it, so I could watch it, and I again like home by tip off and all that stuff. But I've got the radio on as I'm driving home, and like Grandy says to Max, he's like, "So how do you follow all of that up, all of the emotion of that ceremony and coming out one by one and getting the rings and taking the big group photo in front of the banner, raising the thing, like you said, Kuzi being there and the big 3 and all of it." And Max is just like, this is the most difficult part. I don't know. Like, you got to kind of figure it out. And to figure it out again to the tune of a 43-24 first quarter advantage, that was when I said, I was like, all right, like, they're fine. Like this, and this is not a Knicks problem. This is just how good the Celtics are. And like I did believe the Celtics, I didn't have any doubt in my mind the Celtics were gonna win opening night. I'm not saying I thought they were gonna dominate and be a blowout. I just thought they were going to win. I thought if nothing else, the emotion would carry them, mixed with it takes a little time to work in new pieces. Not that I guess the Celtics ever really experienced that last year, but figured the Knicks might have a couple of hiccups along the way. But to again lead by 20 in the opening quarter, it was like, my God. And so, and then as
you had Payton Pritchard stonewalling OG Anunoby on a drive to the basket. That was like, it was superhuman that night. I was jacked up. I watched Sam Hauser and then Payton Pritchard stonewall OG Anunoby on drives to the basket like 2 straight possessions. And I was like, oh, I did think they'd be a little too juiced up. Like I was like, again, how the hell do you play this game after like all the fanfare, the parades and all this stuff? How do you play this game? And I'm like, nope, these guys, Drew, as you said, surprised their head coach. Their head coach is an absolute psychopath, and the best reasons humanly possible.
I mean, like, we talk about Mazzulla all the time.
He's the best.
The post game is what does it, right? It's he's talked all about like the whole turning the page, and we're not defending, we're not repeating. It's a new year, all the Belichickian stuff, obviously.
I want to see the dot on my forehead.
Yeah, but like when he goes down on, when he does the whole like the Wayne's World "we're not worthy" pose, when he drops down to all fours to kiss the court, when he comes out to shake everyone's hand, get his rings, what the court tastes like, blood. Like this dude.
Or I wish it did.
Or I wish it did, exactly. This dude is just so, I mean, he's different. You want to like the Celtics whatever like phrase used to be like
different here. Built
different year, built different. It's always different, right? This dude is different. There is no doubt about it. We've known that, but he just continues to hammer it home on a daily basis every time he opens his mouth to the media, and I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Is he the same way to you, Drew, like off camera and stuff?
Yeah, he's a little more, I would say, low key than you would see like in a press conference. He will talk to you about stuff other than basketball. But with that being said, he is the same guy all the time in terms of what he believes and the fact that he won't back down from anything and that he is just true to himself. I mean, to me, Joe Mazzulla is a beautiful lesson in being yourself at all times, even when other people think you're a weirdo. Think about it, guys. Think about, and I've actually tried to learn from him as I step into this role. When you're like Joe Mazzulla takes over a team that was in the finals and nobody knows anything about him, and he didn't try to fit in at all. He just was Joe, right? So for me, trying to follow Mike and like calling games for the best team in the NBA, trying to do the same thing, just trying to be myself. And I think what Joe did, where he didn't change who he was because people had never seen anybody like him, and it makes people uncomfortable sometimes. He's okay with that. And I think it's just great. And they put the faith in the right guy. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it.
Yeah.
I live for Missoula post games. They're like my favorite thing.
Also, isn't it great how the crowd was chanting one more three? And this is a guy who had to answer questions about why are we shooting so many threes for like a year and a half.
Right.
And you fast forward and it's
I never thought of that. I did not think about that. That's just wonderful. We're all the
top flies when you're scoring 150 points a game.
Right. Listen, people want records. Everyone wants to see records and say they were in the building for it. So of course. All right, real quick, because I don't want to go much longer. We've eaten up enough of Drew's time pre-show as well. But the other thing that Ev, I'm sure you want to sound off on a little bit, and we spent, we dedicated entire shows to this conversation in the off season, but now we're sort of seeing it in practice. Ev, I feel like we have been leading the charge, honestly, for a couple of years now about, especially the moment Malcolm Brogdon was traded away. Just you wait, you're going to see a bigger role for Payton Pritchard, and he is going to be more important for this team. And so obviously the minutes are there, 25 and 28 in the two games so far. He is your leading minutes guy off the bench. He is, at least right now, your sixth man. I know there's no Porzingis. Shot volume. Now, granted, he shot like crap in the first game, but 10 shots, 11 the next time out. So he's getting the shots up. He's naturally, most of them are from three. He even had the one that didn't count, the heave, from 3/4 court against the Wizards. That, unfortunate. I even heard, I think the guy on the call, I saw this floating around on social media, and he made the comment like, well, no coincidence. That was about a split second too late on that shot. Like, you have no idea who you're talking about. If anyone doesn't give a crap about his field goal percentage and wants to take that shot, it is Payton Pritchard. But what have you thought so far in terms of, again, the Pritchard impact through a couple of games and sort of sizing up that larger role?
I just love watching that guy. I mean, he is such a hooper. It actually is a bit of a dilemma in my head because as a basketball fan, I actually want to see Payton Pritchard start somewhere and like run his own team just to see what he could do. But as a Celtics fan, I'm so glad we have him because he's just another great story, guys. Like, how can you not be happy for that guy who was unhappy, wanted to be traded a couple of years ago, signs a deal which now looks like the best bargain in the NBA. And here he is as a real contributor last year to an NBA championship team who I think his role will only grow this year. I mean, he's really, without Porzingis, I think Payton is probably the first guy off the bench. He's probably our sixth man right now. So I'm stoked for him. I think he does a fantastic job making up for his size with A, what he does in the gym, and B, playing angles. I mean, think about like the guy we played opening night, Jaylen Brunson. Not the biggest dude, but he's special at footwork and angles and shooting and finishing. And Pritchard, to an extent, has a lot of those same characteristics. And I also just appreciate somebody who loves the craft and loves what they do enough to show up no matter what. So like everybody could rest and Payton Pritchard would want to play 1-on-5. We could have one dude and Payton Pritchard would be like, yeah, let's do it. Sign me up. Because he just loves to hoop. And in a league where it's easy to get frustrated, you know, we talked about some of the guys who missed their openers. It's easy to get frustrated looking around at guys who don't play. Payton Pritchard just loves to play basketball. And because of that, I think he wants to work as hard as he does. And to me, I've never seen anybody as a professional athlete work as hard as he does. So I'm thrilled for his success. And I think he'll only continue to get better. I mean, we've talked about age a lot on the show, which I guess is what we always do as Celtics fans talking about our team. We've talked about age, like he's only going to get better. So I'm excited to see, you know, what the future holds for him. I will say, I don't think he's the best football player on the team. I will have to disagree with him on that. I don't, if I were an NFL.
Shireman like was a legit quarterback.
Yeah. I love the confidence from Payton, but if I were an NFL GM, he wouldn't be my first pick.
No, not even remotely close. I told you, Kaufman, I texted you. I'm like, I'm already taking victory laps on my Payton Pritchard takes from the offseason. Like,
dude, you should. He's good, man. He's really good.
I think Drew mentioned earlier in the show about, you know, pushing pace up 25. Like, that's the guy doing it. Like, they're up 25 and he's like he's sprinting down the floor to start the next set. And this is what like kind of stinks. Like, Tommy would have loved him. And that's the problem. Is that you didn't have the Tommy Hines, because like that used to drive Tommy Hines nuts. Why are you walking the ball up the floor? Let's go. Let's push pace. Payton's always pushing pace. I don't care what the score is. I don't care how much time's left. He's pushing pace, guys. Again, the drive, the fact that he's just the motor, everything about him. I love him. And now that he has more of an opportunity, Kaufman. I said this the offseason. He's gonna up everything. He might be not as efficient because he's gonna take way more shots, but he's gonna be better at everything across the board. And the thing that I love the most is his sneaky offensive rebounding. The guy for 6'1", maybe, is one of the best like small guard offensive rebounders out there. He doesn't mind getting in the middle of it and just ripping it out, pulling it out, starting the offense again. Guy's awesome. I just wish that one counted. Because we're all waiting for it now. It's like must-see TV. What like we all learned in the playoffs. Now every game, if he's on the floor with a chance at a buzzer beater, you know he's getting it. You know what's going on. I love it.
He didn't even have enough time to catch and shoot. It was 0.2. But Payton, if anyone's going to be like, actually, I can do this, it's Payton Pritchard. And
he wasn't that far off. He was like 1/10 and 2/10 off. That's pretty close.
I know.
Well, listen, if Tommy loved Walter, he would have been trying to adopt Payton Pritchard. Good God, with the love for this dude. There's no doubt about it. All right. Well, unfortunately, I feel like I need to do the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Like, I'm sorry, Derek White, we ran out of time. But Lord knows I'd like to appreciate you on this show a little bit, too, with what we've seen through a couple of games. But again, it's just another dude with a carryover from last year. So, Derek, Richard, we will get to you next week. I promise. We're going to have another fun show on the horizon. But Celtics basketball, it continues, obviously, 2 games in the books. And, you know, like we may or may not have mentioned, honestly, I'm not sure. We got Drew joining us from Detroit in his hotel room for people that are listening, not watching. And so it's back at it this weekend, Saturday night, and then back home against Giannis, Dame, and the Bucks on Monday. You got a contest Wednesday in Indiana to start off a 4-game trip. And probably, I know we've been getting in the habit of releasing shows on Fridays, but the Celtics play next on Friday next week, November 1st. So might have a Halloween Thursday edition for you here on the show to, you know, make sure we get one last October celebration of the Celtics, who at that point in time may quite possibly still be undefeated. So for Evan Valenti, Drew, thanks so much for hopping on. Again, the television voice of the Boston Celtics, Drew Carter over at NBC Sports Boston. I am Adam Kaufman. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Celtics. Live in the moment. Enjoy this path, because the playoffs are a ways away, and this is going to be a whole hell of a lot of fun before we get there.